Okay, so like, what if I told you that you could literally do almost half of this paper with just a calculator? I'm not even joking. Today we're doing the Add Math May June 2025 paper 1, and I'm going to walk you through every single question, every calculation, like I'm showing you everything. And okay, I'm gonna be real with you guys. I don't usually beg for subscribers at the start of the video, but this time I am actually subscribed. Please, I'm asking. The expression PQ plus 5R minus 5Q minus PR is equal to. So the first step is to group all like terms. So PQ minus 5Q plus 5R minus PR. The like term here would be Q. So P minus 5, and you put P minus 5 in brackets to the right. And the value that would satisfy this is negative R. So the product of these two would give you Q minus R and P minus 5. And the answer is A. 2x cubed plus x squared minus 7x minus 6 factorize is completely as. We can use your calculator to solve this. You click mode, you guys would see something called equation. For me, I have to press solve polynomial degree 3 since it's x cubed. So I'd put in 2, 1, negative 7, and negative 6. And it would tell me my x value. So we have x is equal to negative 3 over 2, x is equal to negative 1, and x is equal to 2. But we have to put it in a linear form. So once we do that, we'll get 2x plus 3, x plus 1, and x minus 2. So the answer that looks like that is D. Given that fx is equal to ax squared plus bx plus c, then fx can be expressed in the form. So we're completing the square of fx. So ax squared plus bx plus c. We put a outside the bracket, and then we put b over a because we're multiplying by a plus c. Now we need to find half of the coefficients of x. So half of b over a, which is equal to b over 2a. And now we have to square that result. So once we square b over 2a, we'd get b squared over 4a squared. And now we're going to plug this result into the bracket. So a x squared plus b over ax plus the b squared over the 4a squared plus c. Since we inserted it inside the bracket, we have to subtract outside the bracket. So we subtract by the b squared over the 4a squared. And now we're going to simplify the bracket by finding the square root of those two terms. So a, the square root of x squared is x. We're going to use this sign that comes right after the x squared, so plus. And the square root of b squared over 4a squared just brings us straight back to b over 2a. So b over 2a all squared plus. We need to give c the same denominator as b squared. So 4a squared c minus b squared over 4a squared. And now, if you guys noticed, then you realize that a could be factorized from the numerator and denominator of this. So a 4ac minus b squared, and a from the denominator would be 4a. So once you cancel out these a's, you'd be left with something that looks like c. The values of x for which x plus 15 all squared is equal to 64r. So recall that a plus or minus b all squared is equal to a squared, the first value squared, plus or minus 2ab plus b squared. We'd get x squared, we're squaring our first term, plus the 2ab would give us 30x plus the square of 15, which is 225, is equal to 64. But we're going to bring the 64 over to the left-hand side so that our equation will be equal to 0. And this would give us 30 minus 64x, which would give us negative 34x plus the 225 is equal to 0. Now we have a quadratic. We can find the x terms by going into mode again. You guys will click equation, solve polynomial degree 2, 1 for x to the degree of 2, negative 34 for x, and 225 for c. And then tell you your x value. So x is equal to 9, or x is equal to 25. So I'd find that our values of x are d, 9 and 25. Which of the following graphs best represents fx? X, open bracket 1 plus x close brackets. So you know that our critical values are x equals 0, and the equation x plus 1 is equal to 0. So x would be equal to -1. So let's look at these options. Okay, these two do not have critical values of 0 and -1 respectively, but these two do. If you were to look at the coefficient of x squared when you multiply them, we'd get a positive coefficient of x squared. That means you'd have to open upwards, and the answer would have to be A. A quadratic equation is such that the sum of its roots is -1/2 and the product of its roots is 2/3. A quadratic equation is such that the sum of its roots is -1/2 and the product of its roots is 2/3. The quadratic equation is, we know that the standard equation for this is x squared minus the sum of x plus product, which is equal to 0. So x squared minus the sum, which is a half, that would turn into a positive. So plus a half x, then plus the product, which is 2/3, is equal to 0. Now we're going to multiply throughout by the lowest common multiple, which is 6. So you get 6x squared plus 3x plus 4 is equal to 0. And the answer would be B. The set of values of x for which 5x over 2 minus 3x is greater than or equal to 0. Okay, so we'd multiply both sides by 2 minus 3x. And once we do that, 5x minus 2 minus 3x would be greater than or equal to 0. X would be equal to 2 over 5, or x would be equal to 2 over 3. So here we can see that it opens downwards, since the coefficient of x squared would be negative. So it's a frowny face curve. So this would be 2 over 5, and 2 over 3 would be right here. And it's looking for the equation of x is satisfied when it's greater than 0. So it'd be this section right here. So it'd be an answer similar to something like 2 over 5 is greater than or equal to x, which is less than 2 over 3. Notice how we never put a equal sign here, because if we were to put 2 over 3 into x right here, we'd find that it would give us 0, and therefore it would be undefined. So our answer would be D. The values of x for which 8 is less than x squared minus 2x are. Okay, we're going to bring over the 8 to the right hand side, and we're going to get 0 is less than x squared minus 2x minus 8. We're finding the roots of x, or the x values. You can go into mode and then solve polynomial to degree 2. Enter 1 for x squared, -2 for bx, -8 for c, and you'd find that your x values are x equal -2 or x equal 4. So you need to draw another graph. This time it opens upwards, since the coefficient of x squared is greater than 0. So it open upwards, -2, 4, and you're looking for where it is greater than 0. So it's this region and this region. So it'd be x is less than -2, where x is greater than 4, which is D. For this one, we're just able to use your calculators. So go back to mode 1, which should be on your calculator, and manually enter the question. And we get -6 to the root 5 plus 11, and the answer would be 8. They just switched the position of the 11. The value of x for which 4x minus 1 is equal to 2 is, okay, we need to get them down to the same base. So once we do that, we get 2x minus 1 is equal to 2 to the 1. So 2x minus 2 would equal 1 when we get rid of the bases, because they're the same. So we'd find that 2x is equal to 3 over 2, and x would give you 3 over 2. So C. Given that log to the base 2, x to the power of 3 is equal to 6, then the value of x is, okay, we're going to put this into logarithmic, called exponential form. So you do that by putting 2 to the power of 6, and that would have to give us x to the power of 3. So 2 to the power of 6 is equal to x to the power of 3. 2 to the power of 6 is equal to 64, which is equal to x cubed. And you'd find, so you do that by shifting, and then 64. So x would give us 4. I'm just showing you guys that you can do more than just a square root with your calculator. So answer would be P. if the relationship between v and t is given by v is equal to 6 multiplied by 5t, then this may be reduced to a linear form. So this requires the logarithmic product rule and power rule. So you'd find that log v is equal to log 6 multiplied by 5t. Log v is equal to log 6 plus the log 5t. But if you have a power, you can just put it at the front. So it'd be the same as log v is equal to log 6 plus t log 5. And the answer would be B. For the arithmetic progression -12, -7, -2, 3, 8, the end term is given by. So first, the very first step is to find the common difference, which is t2 minus t1. So -7 subtracted by -12. It's very important to pay attention to the signs. Two negative signs would equate to a positive sign. So the common difference would give you 5. And our first term, which is a, is -12. And we know that the end term can be given by a plus n minus 1 d. So -12 plus n minus 1, common difference 5, is equal to 5n minus 5 minus 12, which is 5n minus 17. So the answer would be C. A sequence of positive integers un is defined by un is equal to 3, open bracket, a half, close bracket, n minus 1. The 10th term of the sequence is given by. So this is basically telling us we can just substitute in 10 with n, and we should find the 10th term of the sequence. So we use our calculators. 3 to the half to the power of 10 minus 1. I'm going to get 3 over 512, which is an option. The series -2 plus 4 over 3 minus 8 over 9 plus converges to the limit. When it says converges to the limit, we're already talking about sum to infinity, which is a over 1 minus r, where the modulus of r is less than 1. Because when it's converging, it's going towards 0, but it never reaches it. So the first term is -2. R would simply be the second term over the first term, which is 4 over 3 divided by -2. And you can work this out using your calculator. So 4 over 3 divided by the -2, and we get that r is equal to -2 over 3. So you substitute this back into our sum to infinity equation. So -2 over 1 minus our ratio, which is -2 over 3. Use your calculator again. And we'd find that we're getting -6 over 5. C. A line L1 passes through the point 6, 5 and is perpendicular to a line whose equation is 3x plus 4y minus 7, which is equal to 0. The equation of L is, so we're going to have to use the line that is perpendicular to and make the subject y. So 4y is equal to -3x plus 7 divided throughout by 4. We know that our gradient of this line would be -3 over 4. And if the gradient of this line is perpendicular to the other line, then we can find the gradient of L1 by finding the reciprocal and changing the sign. So it'd be 4 over 3 for the gradient of L1. And we know it passes through the point 6, 5, so you can use the point slope formula, which is y minus y1 is equal to mx minus x1. So y minus 5 is equal to 4 over 3x minus 6. Y is equal to 4 over 3x minus 6 multiplied by 4 over 3, which is minus 8 plus the 5. So we're getting that y is equal to 4 over 3x minus 3, and we'd multiply throughout by 3. So 3y is equal to 4x minus 9, and we can bring 3y over here. So 4x minus 3y minus 9 is equal to, and our answer would be A. Our circle C has center 3, -2, and radius 4. The equation of C is, okay, so we can put the equation of the circle in standard form. So we'd get x minus the coordinate of the x for the center squared plus y minus the coordinate of the y, which will give us plus 2 squared, is equal to the radius squared, so 4 squared. And recall that a plus b squared is the same as a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. So when we expand this, we'll get x squared minus 6x plus 9 plus y squared plus 4y plus 4 is equal to 16. Then once we simplify this, we're getting x squared minus 6x plus y squared plus 4y. And then we look at our constants without any x or y terms. So 9 plus 4. Then we subtract the 16 because we're bringing it over to the left-hand side. So negative 3 is equal to 0. So our answer is B. The line 7x minus 4y plus 25 is equal to 0, and 3x minus y minus 5 is equal to 0 intersect at the point P. The coordinates of P are, okay, we're going to have to transpose and make y the subject of line 2. So once we do that, we're getting y is equal to 3x minus 5. And we substitute this into L1. So 7x minus 4, 3x minus 5 plus 25, which is equal to 0. So 7x minus 12x plus 20 plus 25 is equal to 0. Minus 5x is equal to negative 45. X will give us 9. And if you look at your answers, the only answer with x as 9 is A. So by process of elimination, we could depict that our answer is A. Given that OA is equal to negative 1725 and OB is equal to 45, then the vector AB is equal to, so you know that to find a vector like this, it's the ending position vector subtracted by the starting position vector. So AB would be equal to OB minus OA, which is equal to 45 minus negative 1725. So you can use your calculator again. 4 minus 17 would give us 21, and 5 minus 25 is negative 20. So our answer would be D. The position vector of 2 points A and B relative to an origin O are given by OA equal 30 and OB equal 85 respectively. The modulus of AB and the angle AB makes with the x-axis respectively are, okay, so you know that to find AB is the ending position vector minus the starting position vector like we did above. So AB is equal to OB minus OA, which is equal to 85 minus 30, which is equal to 5. And in order to find the modulus, which is basically the length, it's just the square root of the x squared and y squared. So once you work that out, we're getting that 5 squared plus 5 squared is equal to 5 over 5 root 2. However, that isn't an option. But we know that 5 root 2 is the same thing as root 50. And to find the angle it makes with the x-axis, we use angle is equal to tan minus 1, the y value over the x value. And we always use the positive values. So the angle would get shift tan minus 1. The y value is the 5, which is right here. And the x value is also 5. So I'd find that our answer is 45 degrees. So the answer is C. If A, open bracket 4, negative 3, close bracket, the vector B is parallel to A, and the modulus of B is equal to 25, then B is equal to, so we have to find one of these answers with a modulus of B equal to 25 that's parallel to A. So A is equal to KB. Therefore, A has to be a scalar multiple of B, where K is a scalar product. So let's check the first one. In order for them to be parallel, Kx has to equal to Ky, where x squared x2 over x1 is equal to y2 over y1. So x2 would be the 20 here over x1, which is the 4, is equal to y2 2, which is negative 15 here, and y1, which is negative 3. Now if we simplify both terms, 20 divided by 4 will give us 5, and this would always also give us 5. So they are parallel, but let's look if the modulus is 25. So remember, the modulus is the square value of x squared, so 20 squared plus y squared, which is negative 15 squared, and we're getting that it is 25. So yes, it's both parallel, and the modulus is 25, so it's A. 8 pi over 5 radians converted to degrees is, so when we're converting, it's always what we're converting to, so degrees over the radians, which is equal to 8 shift exp to get the pi symbol, 5 multiplied by 180 over pi, which is equal to 288 degrees. Ensure that you're in degrees. The exact value of sine 150 over cosine 150 is given as, so you know sine over cosine is the same thing as tan 150. Ensure that you're in degrees when you're working this out. So tan 150 would give us negative root 3 over 3. And before we rationalize, we'd see that we'd have negative 1 over root 3. So negative 1 over root 3 is b. The figure below shows a semicircle with radius 4 centimeters. So the radius is 4 centimeters, but the diameter, which is 2 radiuses, is 8 centimeters. And we're trying to find the perimeter, so it'd be the arc length plus the diameter. So perimeter is equal to the arc length, which we'll label S, plus the diameter. To find the arc length, we know it's the radius by the angle. If 180 degrees is equal to pi, then our arc length is 4, which is our radius, by pi. So the perimeter would be 4 pi plus the 8. And we can simplify this to 4 pi plus 2. So 4 pi plus 2. If tan angle is equal to 5 over 12 and angle is reflex, then sine angle is equal to, so you know, this is our definition, and this is our angle. Using our cast diagram, which tells us where the identities are positive and negative, we have that tan, when it's reflex, which is greater than 180 degrees, is positive in the third quadrant. Therefore, tan is in the third quadrant. So tan angle is equal to up over adjacent. So we need to find our hypotenuse, and we know that the hypotenuse is the largest side. So we can find it by finding the square root of 5 squared plus 12 squared, which gives us 13. So sine angle would give us opposite over hypotenuse, which is the 5 over the 13. However, in the third quadrant, sine is negative. So it'd be negative 5 over 13, which is C. Okay. The graph of y equals sine 2x is, so this 2 right here is our frequency multiplier. That means it speeds up the oscillations by 2. So instead of having one complete oscillation in 2 pi, we'll have 2 complete oscillations. And we know sine starts from the origin. So our answer here would be C. Without the 2, our answer would look like B. Okay, 27. Given that cosine x is equal to 3 over 5 and x is acute, then the value of sine 2x is. So we're trying to find what the value of sine 2x is. And you know that sine 2x is equal to 2 sine angle cosine angle. So we have cosine angle, but we don't have sine angle. So in order to complete sine angle, we need to find what the opposite is. So we have the adjacent and the hypotenuse. We can find the opposite by square rooting the hypotenuse squared minus the adjacent squared, which is equal to 4. So sine angle would give us opposite over hypotenuse, which is 4 over 5. And when we substitute it into this equation, we'll get 2 multiplied by sine angle 4 over 5 multiplied by cosine angle, which is 3 over 5. So 2 multiplied by 4 over 5 multiplied by 3 over 5. And we get 24 over 25. cosine A plus B plus cosine A minus B. So we know that cosine A plus B is equal to cosine A cosine B minus sine A sine B. And we know that cosine A minus B is equal to cosine A cosine B plus sine A sine B. And it asks us for the sum, so we're adding them. So these two would cancel out and we'll be left with 2 cosine A cosine B. So our answer is B. The expression open bracket cosine x minus sine x close bracket open bracket cosine x plus sine x close bracket all over 1 minus sine x close bracket open bracket 1 plus sine x close bracket can be simplified to give, okay, recall that a squared minus b squared is equal to a minus b, a plus b. Therefore, this is just the difference of two squares in the numerator and denominator. So our numerator will give us cosine squared x minus sine squared x over 1 minus sine squared x. And using the Pythagorean identity, which states that cosine squared x plus sine squared x is equal to 1, we know that 1 minus sine squared x is the same thing as cosine squared x. So we get cosine squared x minus sine squared x over cosine squared x. And we split this into two fractions. So cosine squared x over cosine squared x minus sine squared x over cosine squared x. And you know, when you simplify, we get 1 here. And sine over cos is tan. So we get tan squared x. So our answer is 1 minus tan squared x. For 0 degrees is less than x and x is less than 360 degrees, the equation 3 sine squared x is equal to 8 cosine x has only one real solution given by. So you know that using the same Pythagorean identity, sine squared x is equal to 1 minus cosine squared x. So 1 minus cosine squared x is equal to 8 cosine x. We'd put the 8 cosine x on the left hand side and we'd get 3 minus 3 cosine squared x minus 8 cosine x is equal to 0. Now we're going to divide throughout by -1 and we'll get 3 cosine squared x plus 8 cosine x minus 3 is equal to 0. And we treat cosine x just like if it was x. So you click on mode again, you click to the polynomial degree 2, you'd enter 3, 8, and -3. So cosine x would give you -3, and it would also give you a third. But we know when it's -3, it's invalid, because cosine x can only fall between the range of -1 and 1. So the only real solution is a third. 31. The derivative of square root 7x squared plus 4 is equal to. So you know that this is the same thing as saying 7x squared plus 4 to the power of a half. So we'd multiply by the power, which is a half, and then we'd subtract 1 from the power, so we'd get negative a half. Multiply by the derivative of what's inside the brackets, so we'd get 14x, and a half of 14x is 7x. And then this would give us 7x over square root 7x squared plus 4, since it's a negative power, and your answer would give us B. Item 32 refers to the following velocity time graph, which represents the position as a function of time for a motion object over 8 seconds. So which of the following statements about the object's motion is true? The object covers the same distance during M and R? No. To find the distance traveled, it would be the area under the graph. So M and R do not have the same area. The object moves with uniform velocity during F? No. Its velocity is increasing, therefore it is accelerating. The object does not accelerate during t. It does not. Acceleration is 0 as it's moving at a constant velocity. The object is at rest during m. No, it's moving at constant velocity. So the answer is C. The derivative of x sine 2x, so we'd have to use product rule, which states that uv is equal to u dv plus v du. So u would be the x and sine 2x would be v. So the derivative of sine 2x would be 2 cosine 2x plus v, which is the sine 2x multiplied by u. The derivative of u would just give you back 1. So our answer would be 2x. cosine 2x plus sine 2x, which is a. If y is equal to x squared over x plus 3, then the derivative is, so this is derivative using quotient rule. So we know that when you have quotient rule, u over v is equal to v du minus u dv over v squared. So u would be x squared and v would be our x plus 3. So v, which is x plus 3, would be multiplied by the derivative of x squared, which is 2x. And we subtract that from our x squared multiplied by the derivative of v, which is just 1 over v squared. So x plus 3 squared. We do not expand the denominator. So once you expand by multiplying the brackets, we get that 2x squared plus 6x minus x squared over x plus 3 squared. So now we can simplify this into x squared plus 6x over x plus 3 all squared. And it can be simplified even more. So x plus 6 in brackets over x plus 3 squared. And our answer would be D. If fx is equal to sine 3x minus cosine 4x, then f double prime x is equal to, so first we need to find the first derivative. So fx is equal to 3 cosine 3x. And now the derivative of negative cosine 4x would give us 4 sine 4x. Now we find the second derivative. So remember, we have to find the derivative of the outside function and then multiply it by the derivative of the inside. So the derivative of 3x, which is the inside, is 3. And remember, cosine becomes negative sine. So it'd be negative 9 sine 3x. And the derivative of 4 sine 4x, when we multiply by the inside, which is 4, we'll get 16 cosine 4x. So our answer is D. The integral of 3x minus 5 to the fourth power dx is equal to, so we find the integral of the outside function, so 3x minus 5 to the fifth power divided by 5, and we multiply by the derivative of the inside function, which is 1 over 3 plus c. And that would give us the same thing as the answer at c. The integral of cosine x minus 2 sine x dx is equal to, so integral of cosine is sine x, and the integral of sine x is cosine. So I get plus 2 cosine x plus c. So our answer here would be D. Okay, so the integral of lower limit 1, upper limit 2, open bracket 1 plus x squared dx is equal to, so we can actually use your calculator for this one. So to solve it, you go back to mode 1, and then you click the integral key where you have the upper and lower limit. You first enter equation 1 plus, to get x you press alpha close bracket plus alpha close bracket and squared. Now you set your lower limit, which is 1, and your upper limit, which is 2, and it tells you that your answer is 29 over 6, which is equal to 4, 5 over 6. So our answer is C. The gradient of the tangent to the curve C at xy is given by dy over dx is equal to 9x squared minus 4. The equation of the curve that passes through the point negative 1, 2 is, so in order to find the equation of the curve, we need to find the integral of the derivative. So once we find the integral of 9x squared minus 4, which you can actually do with your calculator. So integral button, instead of using the upper and lower limit, we use the option that doesn't have it. So 9 alpha close bracket to get x squared minus 4 is equal to 3x cubed minus 4x. Remember, plus c. Now, in order to find plus c, we have to use this point. So we substitute y. So 2 is equal to 3 negative 1 to the cubed minus 4 negative 1 plus c. 2 negative 1 to the third power minus 4 negative 1. So 2 would equal to 1 plus c, therefore c is equal to 1. And we'd plug c is equal to 1 into this equation, and we'd get that your answer is A. Okay, number 40. Item 40 refers to the following diagram. Which of the following expressions represents the area of the shaded region? So right here, we know that x is equal to 1 and say x is equal to 4. And this equation says x squared minus 1. And you know that the area is equal to the integral of the lower limit, which is x equal 1, by the upper limit, which is x equal 4, and then the equation of the line, which is x squared minus 1 with respect to x. So our answer would be D. Joseph collects data on the color of cars passing his yard. The data can be best described as, so the color of the car is qualitative as it describes the car, it's not quantitative. And it would be discrete as it's countable. Continuous refers to anything that's measurable, so our answer is A. Item 42 refers to the following, can't really see that, but this is a box and whisker plot of male and female. Which of the following values describes the range of the height in the class? So you know that the range is equal to the max minus the minimum. So our maximum value would be here, and our minimum value would be here. This goes up by increments of 5, so 150, 155, 160, 165, 170, 175. So the value, that's our max, would be 173, and our minimum is 155. And that would give us 18. So our answer would be A. The 50th percentile is defined as the 50th percentile divides the data set into two equal parts. So that would be our median. A fair six-sided die is rolled. Given that an odd number has turned up, what is the probability that is prime? So you know that odd numbers are any numbers that are not divisible by 2. So out of the six-sided die, we'd have 1, 3, and 5. And we're looking for the prime numbers out of these odd numbers. You know, prime numbers are natural numbers greater than 1 that have exactly 2 factors. So the prime numbers here would be 3 and 5. Don't get confused with the six-sided die. So probability that is prime given that odd has occurred is equal to the probability of the intersection, so prime intersect odd, over the probability that is odd. So the intersection would be 2 since we have 3 and 5 being prime and there's 3 odd numbers. So our probability is 2 over 3. 2 unbiased coins are flipped simultaneously and the results are recorded. Which of the following possibility space diagrams represents the event? Okay, imagine you have 2 coins. If you flip both of them simultaneously, what can happen? Each coin can either land on a heads or a tails. So we have to show all possible combinations. And when we show all possible combinations, we have heads, 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 tails, 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 and tails, heads. We have no numbers at all. So these are wrong. So our answer would be A. Okay, thank you guys so much for watching. Please make sure to share the video and like and subscribe. Thank you.